This is the third of the series, as in 2025. And what is exciting is that it gets bigger each year. And it is achieving what we set to do, which is essentially becoming a rallying point for, first of all, Africa's private sector to focus minds on economic integration. For a long time, the whole talk of economic integration appears to be at the political level, intellectual level, and maybe sometimes it makes headlines, that sort of thing. I think what we agree on as a continent, and which was manifested in 2018, the AU Summit in Kigali, which is that if we to make progress in a meaningful, speedily way, and in a way that can spread across the length and breadth of the continent, our vast continent, then we must do what our forefathers and foremothers, if I may add, thought we should do in 1963, which is to come together, the unification of the continent. The difference now is that it's more about economic unification rather than political unification. And it's even more exciting because political unification then is the politicians who control that narrative. But economic unification or integration, the politicians may set the framework. The rest is for the private sector, for the people to own it and drive it. So what we're seeking to do is to get the various stakeholders to own and drive it. And if truth be told, it is the only conference in Africa of Africans that is dedicated uniquely to the single market agenda. And we don't want to shift from that because we believe that's the way to go. And it is even more important in a sense that AFCFTA, as in the African Continental Free Trade Area, began 1st January 2021. We believe that if it's to make any impact, if it's to survive, if it's to be meaningful to the average African, then it is the energy, the collective sense of conviction, and the practical manifestation of its being felt and seen by the African within the first 10 years. Otherwise, it will lose momentum. So I think between 2021 and 2031, the continent must begin to feel that we're serious about it. The people, the continent must begin to feel that, yes, we're serious about it. And we have to be serious about it because it's the only way to go. It's been known to us for centuries that what happened at the Berlin conference, where they carved Africa into fragments, where even some of the demarcation lines go through houses and the rest of it. That's not the way to go. But somehow we seem to allow ourselves to be defined by those who conquered us, or those who manipulated us, or those who exploited us. And I think really it's important that we take what AFCFTA is about seriously. And I'm happy that the continent has embraced the African Prosperity Network and what we seek to do. What is interesting about the 2025 dialogues is that we had over 4,500 participants. Now that was twice as many as the previous year, from 46 countries. Now to me that's amazing. And what was also interesting is that you can tell that it will get bigger next year. But then we shouldn't lose sense of what we seek to achieve, is that the meeting should come up with actionable items. And we're still committed to ensuring that this continent-wide mobile money interoperability comes to fruition. It's absolutely critical. It is critical because the digital economy is the way to go. And I think that once the AU itself, in its 2024 summit, adopted the digital protocol on digital economy, I think it's important that they go a step further and say, look, maybe within 5 years, as we are proposing, you should be able to use your mobile money wallet to purchase anything or to make any transaction in any part of the continent. It's absolutely critical, so we're committed to it. Secondly, if you look at what happened at the Accra International Conference Centre in 2025, on all the compact items, a couple of them, for me, may end up being the 2 or so items that we push this year. One is ensuring that the protocol on free movement of people is actually brought to bear. in a sense that we are able to travel from one African country to the other without a visa using our African passports. So far, only about 5 or 6 countries have embraced it. We need to do so to send a strong signal to the people of the continent that we are serious about this single market. Because if you believe in a single market, then it means you must be willing to allow us to travel freely. Travel freely doesn't mean that when I travel to the country, I'm going to live there freely. But as I'm a visitor, I'm coming to your country for a week, for a day, for 3 days, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. Why do I need a visa to do so? It will amaze you that if you have a British passport and an African passport, you may be better off using a British passport if you want to travel across the continent than use your African passport. And that's exactly what is happening. I have a British passport, I have a Ghanaian passport. In some African countries, I use my British passport. Other than that, I have to find an embassy that's one in my country to then apply for a visa. And I think what it does is that it makes it unattractive to go through the hassle of actually going to another African country. Of course, within the regions like ECOWAS, it may be easy. And then the next thing that we are looking at doing is one issue that popped up because we're focusing on how we find the necessary investments to build the various infrastructure that will connect us, whether it's digital, whether it's rail, whether it's roads, the aviation, the sea, or what have you. And even a hospital infrastructure can connect us, because if we can have specialized hospitals in various parts of the continent, you don't have to go to India, Turkey, America, Britain, Middle East for certain treatment. So even building school infrastructure can connect us, because then you have more Africans traveling across the continent for education, or to parts of the continent because maybe you suffer from this disease and you can get treatment there. So building the various infrastructural projects that can connect is absolutely critical. But issue is with money, and we've noticed that for governments across the continent, the debt to GDP ratio is rising. And when it rises like that, it limits the capacity of the state, the fiscal capacity of the state to borrow, fund these big public infrastructure projects. So PPP, public-private partnership, was identified as one way to go. But we believe that there must be a standardized framework for PPPs on the continent, and it must be somehow embraced. We also spoke about the Arab Africa Financial Consortium, which we believe, being pushed by Badea, which we believe is also potentially another big source of additional funding if these various financial institutions in the Arab world can be mobilized to spend a lot more on our continent, but in a way that is a win-win for them. Because really, I think the days of handouts are far gone, but there are things in Africa that can benefit the Middle East, and there are things there that we also can benefit from. So it's really more about cooperation. And then what an interesting concept was what we call the proposal for an integrated infrastructural fund for Africa. And we say so integrated in so many ways, in a sense that one is to help us to connect, and two, it means that ordinary Africans who can afford maybe $1 a day should all contribute towards it. Imagine if you can have 50 million Africans, which are there, who can all invest into this fund, paying $1 a day, which translates to $30 a month, $365. That's a year. $365 times 50 million. How much is that? That's a lot of money. I think even $1 a day by 50 million, it may take you to maybe $1.something billion a month. So if we can find a way to build such a financial infrastructure fund, whether it will be AFCFTA championed, and we use some of these multilateral financial institutions, whether it's AFDB, whether it's AfriExim, whether it's Badea, whatever, or there can be a sort of a new fund which they can pool resources together to set up and drive it. I believe that even the 150 million, estimated 150 million of Africans in global Africa, if you like, or the global Africans out there, they can also contribute. And they may even be able to contribute more than $30 a month. And they know that they are shareholders to this fund. And the fund is specifically for building the various infrastructure, whether it's road, whether it's rail, whatever it is, whether it's a digital infrastructure that can connect us. I believe we can go places. Really with these things, it's about the integrity of the structure that you put in place. It's about the integrity of the personnel that will manage it. And if we can get these things right, and it's about also the integrity of the projects or the viability of the projects that you invest in. And I think if we can get these things right, we'll get somewhere. I think there should be a recognition that nobody or no other country will use their taxpayers' money to fund our prosperity but ourselves.